I've come to be I've come to think deeply about the state of humanity, human affairs, and the only conclusion I can come up with is that human beings are nothing but animals, you know? We think we are civilized creatures, but we're actually not. We're nothing but hairless apes, and we're so egotistical. We think we rule the world. We think we know everything in life, but in reality, we don't know anything. We think that bringing children into this world is a good thing, when in reality, it's a ticket to hell, pretty much. No one really tells us to come to this world. We don't we don't choose it. We're just born into it, and if you're lucky, you're born with good genetics, a wealthy family, lots of friends, good mental health, all these things. But what are the chances of you actually being born into that? The risks are higher. I mean, there are so many people living in poverty now that I just look around and I see everything and I say, why do people keep procreating? What is the point if eventually we die? You know? This act of procreation is nothing but biological and an animal instinct that we should not continue. That's just my logical conclusion. How can humans say that we are great creatures when we're not? Just look, step back, let go of your animal instincts and look at the world how it is. Study humanity, and you will see that we are an evil into this world. How can you say that life is beautiful when there is so much suffering? And if you're privileged enough to have been born into a privileged and a family that, cares about you and all this and has money and good health and all this stuff, consider yourself blessed or lucky or whatever, or just a random luck that you were born into it. Because life is shit. It really is. And there's no reason to argue with Natalists. You know why? Because sooner or later, these people will go through great tragedies in life. It's rare for someone to just go through life without facing some great hardship in life. It's just that anti-natalists are more aware of the fact that suffering exists and we have overcome our biological urges to reproduce. I mean, we're just like you, natalists. We're human beings. We have the urge to procreate as well. But we are not going to let that override our logical thinking, because we actually think before we act. We actually observe the world as it is, and we see the world for what it is, and we say, is it really worth it to bring a life into this world, knowing that my kid will suffer? Anybody can just have a kid. Anybody can go have sex and plant their seed, and 9 months later the kid is born. Anybody can do that if you're alive. But why do it? What's the point? What is the point of bringing another kid into this world? That kid was going to be born and is going to go through many, many difficulties in life. Not to mention the fact that you have to put the kid through school, when the indoctrination of BS, and it's just nothing but a babysitting facility for parents to go to work and leave their kids. That's it. That's what school is. It's a babysitting. It's nothing more than that. You can learn whatever you want at your own home. Just grab a textbook, a private tutor, whatever, and learn. And the indoctrination that they give you in school It's just a bunch of BS and brainwashing, in my opinion. They don't teach you to think for yourself. They teach you to follow the protocols, follow the masses. And when you stray away from that, you start to see things for what they truly are. And you see the horrible things that happen in humanity and in life. And you say, you know what? Something's wrong here. Something's really, really wrong. And because people are so plugged into the matrix, and they think that having a kid is a right, that everybody should have a kid. When you don't have a kid, they ask, what's wrong? Why don't you have a kid? What's wrong? The world is wrong. Life in general is wrong. Suffering is wrong. And you want to bring a kid just for your selfish reasons? Just to say you're a parent? Just to say you want to take care of a human being? I mean, that's cruelty, in my opinion. If you've lived many years here in this earth, you'll know that this world is fucked up, that the world is shit, and all we do is just prevent the shit from keep happening by distracting ourselves with entertainment and socializing. But the more time you spend on your own, the more time you have to think and look at the void, like Nietzsche. When you look long enough at the void, you see humanity for what it truly is. I'm quite young still, but I'm old enough to know how the world works, and I've seen a lot of pain and suffering, and I've been through a lot of pain and suffering in my life, and I just don't want that for the next generation of kids. And I'm sorry if you already have a kid, and if you're a kid and you're an anti-natalist, or you're becoming an anti-natalist and you're listening to this, well, I'm sorry, but you're just gonna have to deal with the fact that you're here. You're gonna have to deal with the fact that you're alive, and there's nothing else you can do but keep going and make something out of your life, even if you didn't want to be born. I didn't ask to be born. I didn't ask to be put in these situations, and that's why I'm expressing myself through this medium, because I'm just putting my thoughts out there, and I know there are other people out there who think like me, who see the world for what it truly is. There is no reason to argue with natalists. The world itself will be their teacher, and will teach them a very harsh lesson in life. All we have to do is just control ourselves and control our actions, control our emotions, and control our reproductive instinct, which is the most important thing we can do. Because the moment you have a kid is the moment that kid is going to suffer. Is the moment that kid is going to go through so many problems in life. And you know what, for people that say, if we don't have kids, the world, there won't be a next generation or to continue. Who says we have to continue? Have you ever questioned yourself why we need to continue as a species? Why we need to continue? You know why I think people keep having kids and we say that we're anti-natalists, are negative or whatever? Because the more time you spend looking at humanity, the more time you will realize that humanity is not worth saving. It's not worth the time and effort to continue. And that's a very sad, depressing, and scary fact for everybody. To know that us as a species, we are the destructors. We are the destroyers. To look at ourselves in the mirror and say, you know what? We are the problem. And that's the problem that many natalists face. They want to have this hopeful idea that there will be a better future, but we don't do anything about it in the moment to change it. And I say, you know what? There needs to be a reset button. There needs to be a reset button, and that's the anti-natalist movement. Not procreating. Ending the cycle here and now. And I hope this message spreads far and wide, and the more people start to realize this, the better the world will be. And you know what? If there are no human beings in this world, the world will just keep going and continue, and suffering will be gone from forever. Isn't that what we want as humans? To reduce suffering, to reduce pain, and increase pleasure? Well, if there's no humanity, then There is no suffering. Because suffering, as long as humanity exists, suffering will be inevitable. Because we are not perfect beings. So I say, you know what, you want to live in a perfect world, then don't procreate. And it's that simple. The abuse that children go to, especially in third world countries. That's what pisses me off the most about people in third world countries that decide to have kids. Is that you know for a fact that your country is in poverty, that your country is, the infrastructure in your government is not working. Yet for some reason, this, your life is not in the position where you should be having kids, but for some reason you decide to have kids. That reason is because you're like an animal. You can't think like a human being. You let your animal drive you instead of you controlling your animal instincts. That's the problem with the world. And I don't think we're ever going to evolve far beyond that. It's been many years now that we've been on this earth, and we're not able to control our basic biological urges to the point where we can reduce suffering and increase pleasure, because the cycle just keeps going and going and going, and we let our hormones dictate how we live, and not our logic. And that's the problem with humanity, and that's why natalists can't reason and can't think, because they are like animals. They're thinking with their hormones and not with their logical mind. Any logical person would say, bringing a kid into this world is cruelty, because the world is shit. The world is full of suffering. And so the vast majority of people, I think, are natalists because of this reason, because they are closer to their animal instinct, their animal urges, rather than the logical side of their brain. And the more of people that are like this reproduce, the more the cycle will just continue and continue and continue, until eventually there will be a tipping point in the world, and then people will say, we have too many human beings and not enough resources to go around. There's too much suffering. People will start thinking like, why did I even exist if I'm suffering? Why do I even keep living? And so there's no reason to argue with natalists, because the world itself will teach them a lesson. The world itself will be the greatest teacher, and all we can do is just speak our minds, share our thoughts, our ideas. And you know what? If they keep saying that we are negative, that we are pessimists, that we should just kill ourselves because of this reason, you know what? Just let them talk. Let them say all they want. All we need to do is just spread the awareness, because we actually care about humanity rather than them. If they really cared about humanity, then they would find solutions to end all suffering. But the solution is that there is no ending to suffering as long as we exist. And that's the problem. That's why internationalism is the answer. And all we can do is just preach. If they listen, they listen. We might reach a couple people here and there, and some others might not. And those that don't listen to our advice, well, what better way to teach them about antinatalism than the world itself? The world itself will just be the teacher, and they will have to learn the hard way. And I'll feel sorry for their kids, but that's the way that life is. And that's all I have to say for this matter, and thank you.